Your family, your health, our passion. This is Family Practice with Dr. Jeffrey Fox, sponsored by Family Practice Associates of Lexington, PSC. Visit us at fpalex.com and like us on Facebook.
Welcome back. My next guest is Susan Allen, who is a chaplain and coordinator of Pastoral Care at Baptist Health Lexington. Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
it's good to be here.
Tell me, what does a chaplain do?
Chaplains provide spiritual and emotional care for patients that are maybe religious, but they may not be religious. So we're there for everyone to help them through a time when they're in the hospital, which obviously is a very significant time for them. And sometimes a lot of things come up in their minds about, what is happening, why it's happening, and we're there to support them on that journey.
Well, you also deal with what I'm going to call advanced directives.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Give me some examples of those.
Well, the chaplains at Baptist Health are all trained to provide education for people that need living wills. We're also notaries, so we do EMS DNRs as well. We do other things that are needed for the hospital. But our primary focus is on living wills, which is a type of advanced directive. And I often tell people we don't do living wills because we are all going to die, although we know we will someday. We do living wills because we have people that care about us and that we care for, and we want them to know what our wishes are when we come to a place where we are at the end of life, and we need the medical staff needs some direction as to what that person's wishes are so that we can honor them.
Give me some idea of what decisions you might make using a living will.
One of the most important things a person needs to do is to have a healthcare surrogate. That is a person that you would trust to make care decisions for you when you are permanently unconscious, perhaps terminally ill, or don't have decisional capacity any longer. So that's a person that it can be anyone. If you don't have a healthcare surrogate in Kentucky, it would be your next of kin. So naming that person is probably the most important thing someone can do. The second half of the living will is often where people are more afraid to kind of venture, and that is about your end-of-life care. Would a person want to be on a ventilator long-term or not? Would a person want to be on a feeding tube long-term or not? Those kinds of decisions are what we talk about on what's included on that second page in our document. It also asks questions like, do you want to be an organ donor at end of life? So those are things that people are often afraid to talk about, but it's so important to have those conversations before that time comes when it's too late to have that conversation.
So for people who are listening now, you don't have to be sick. You don't have to be in the hospital. You don't have to be old. You can actually be young and ought to be thinking about a living will.
Absolutely. Anybody over the age of 18 needs to be thinking about it, because honestly, we're more likely to be hesitant to make those kinds of decisions for a young person. So if that young person knows what their wishes are, go ahead and do it. Do it now. And living wills can be changed. If you have something change in your life situation, you can change it at a later date, and then the new one would just take place of the old one. So it's not something that you should be hesitant to do as a young person and think, I can never change this. You absolutely can.
All right, now being a chaplain, I'm sure you've got some stories to tell. Anything jump to your mind?
I think one of the things that we do so often and so well with patients is help them when they have anxiety. And I had a patient not long ago who I went in to do a living will with, and the physician said, oh, this person's really cranky. You're going to have a hard time getting this done. And she wasn't hesitant at all. We did it, and then she invited me to sit down, and we started talking about things. She knew she was dying. She was a hospice patient. And I said, what are you thinking about? And she said, well, I just don't know what's next. And I said, well, tell me more about that. What's your faith tradition say? And she began to share her faith tradition, and she said, well, I don't think I need to be afraid. And I said, does that give you comfort? And she said, yes. And I said, well, has God been consistent in your life, and where has God shown up in hard times? And she began to share that, and as she did, I saw her anxiety just begin to drop. And so then I charted in the note, the patient's anxiety dropped as we discussed what's next for her. That's really been on her mind. And then that helped the clinicians to know maybe she wasn't cranky, maybe she was afraid.
And I will tell you from personal experience, all the chaplains in the pastoral care that have taken care of my patients always helps with anxiety, always puts them with ease, and helps us all deal with end-of-life issues, whether we want to or not.
Yeah, we do care for patients at end of life. We do so much more. We're there for staff. We're there for people to celebrate when they're getting better. It's not all one thing. Every day is new. Every day is different, and that's why I love it so much.
We thank you for the work you do, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.